It's now 2025. What new rules are in place for 401ks, IRAs, your retirement plans, or even savings plans or inherited money that you might have to take money out of? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. This show is for you. You worked so hard for that money, and you're now ready for your money to start working harder for you today. You want that freedom. You want that cash flow, that prosperity today, not 30 or 40 years from now, but you want it now so you can live that life that you love with those that you love. But is it not just about getting rich? No, I mean, that's great. No, it's about living a rich life, because as you're blessed financially, you have a greater capacity to bless the lives of those around you. Thank you so much today for tuning in. Again, I appreciate you guys that have been binging and sharing this podcast and allowing our ripple effect to really grow and allowing me to create that ripple effect through you. Now, we're going to the new year. If you haven't done so already, check out moneyripples.com. We got new information, new things coming up. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go to the Money Ripples YouTube channel today and subscribe right now. Okay, so it's 2025, and as happens each year, rules update, 401k contribution limits, who can contribute, who can't, and how much can you contribute. Also about health savings accounts, which we'll talk about a little bit today, and even about inherited IRAs, stretch IRAs, they used to call them. Guess what? Rules have changed over the last few years, and many people don't realize this, but it could be an opportunity for you to be able to take advantage of it for your own benefit. And so that's what I want to discuss today is what are those new rules? What's changing? What's happening? Some of it's kind of standard and boring. Heck, even Social Security is changing too. But I want to talk about all these different things that the government sets in motion, and really, what can you do about it, especially if these things affect you? All right, so let's start easy. Let's warm you up a little bit here, okay? So 401ks, 403bs, if you have those kind of retirement saving plans or those options, you can contribute now another $500 per year. You can now contribute up to $23,500. If you're over the age of 50, you can contribute another $7,500, which means you can contribute about $31,000 a year. Now, here's something that's interesting that I did not know is if you're between the age of 60 and 63, you can also contribute an additional $11,250 only during those years. Then after that, it's gone. It's off the table. But they give you a little extra catch-up contribution there in your early 60s. Now, of course, should you do it? Should you not? Now, I know a lot of those people that are in their 60s may not be the best thing, but let me give you a little cool strategy you could be using that might work in your favor. Now, of course, companies are not going to match a 100% all the way up to $30,000, $40,000. Not typically, right? That's usually not going to be the case. They will cap you there. However, a lot of people say, wait, is there a way I can get the money in and then pull it back out? Now, if you are between those ages of 60 and 63, or in your 60s in general, yes, often you might have, and you have to check with your employer, or more specifically, your 401k plan administrator, to check with them and say, do I have the ability to do what's called in-service distributions? In-service distributions mean that while you're employed, while you're working there, you can actually pull the money out. Now, they might have certain restrictions. They might say you have to keep a certain amount of money in there, but unlike what happens normally when you're not 59 and a half or older, they usually will tell you, nope, you can't touch it other than borrow from it up to 50% or 50,000, whichever is less in your account. They might let you do that. But again, you have to borrow it and then pay it back with every paycheck. You're required to pay it back each and every time. And so it's not really a great advantage to do it that way. But a lot of times when I do get clients and they are into their 60s and they say, well, I've got this 401k plan. Do I keep using it or not? Well, imagine this. And this is regardless of those extra contributions, because those really don't matter too much in that sense. But if you were able to take that money, and of course, you're able to contribute to that plan, and say that you do get the match, the employer match. Say you're only contributing up to the match that you're getting. So let's just say you put in $10,000 a year, they match $10,000 a year. Well, that's $20,000. Now, many people will argue, well, that's 100% rate of return. Well, that's only true if you pull the money out right away, because it's not 100% rate of return when you get out beyond the first, second, and third year. It's only on the new money you're putting in. This is why if you put into a calculator about your 401k with the match, you try to put in 100% rate of return, you'll all of a sudden realize you're a billionaire in a couple decades. That's not going to happen. You are not going to become a billionaire or a trillionaire by saving in your 401k. Never happened. Even if you're going on I've never seen people show interviews like the School of Hard Knocks, that guy's going around interviewing, people on the street like millionaires and billionaires. You never hear one of them say, yeah, I saved in my 401k and that got me rich. Never happens, right? But the one good thing, the way it could be a true 100% short-term return is if you do get that match. You put in the 10,000, they give you 10,000 match. And then if you are in your 60s, you can then pull that money out. Now, will you be taxed? Yes. If this is a traditional 401k, yes, you will be taxed. But guess what? You're not being taxed on the whole thing. Even if it's a third of your money gone, still you went from 10,000 that you contributed, and then a third of that, right, would have been like 6,600 bucks. You would still have now 13,000 and some odd change that you were able to get out immediately. It's like an extra 30% bump on your cash that then you can use to go invest however you want. Some people even go and fund their policies because they know now they can put it in there. It grows tax-free, comes out tax-free, kind of like moving it to a Roth, right? So very similar strategy. So there are some things you can do, especially if you're later in life. But yes, they give you now this additional another 11,250 on top of the 31,000 that you can do. So that means really you can save about 42,000 a year if you're between 60 and 63 years old. All right, now IRAs. IRAs are very simple. It used to be 6,000 if you're under the age of 50, 7,000 if you're over the age of 50. Now it's $7,000 if you're under the age of 50. You can contribute each year to an IRA, plus another 1,000 a year catch up, so 8,000 if you're over the age of 50, or once you hit 50. Now there are some exceptions here. You do not get tax deductions if you make more than 89,000 if you file single on your tax returns, or if you're married, you file jointly on your tax returns. If you make over 146,000, you get zero deduction, which in my opinion is not even worth having an IRA. Now, maybe a Roth could be worth it, but an IRA, I mean, really IRA, in my opinion, is made for those that are, lower class to lower middle class. That's it. And really the way that they incentivize you, it's the case. It's, if the IRS would put it another way, they're kind of saying, here's the poor man's version of a retirement savings account, but you're going to eventually get taxed down the road anyways, just like you will on a 401k, you get taxed down the road. And so there's no tax benefits to these 401ks or IRAs. There's a deduction, but remember, you always have to still pay those taxes down the road. Now, a Roth IRA is not the same way. Roth IRA, you put in with after-tax dollars, it grows tax-free, comes out tax-free. Now, they do have some limitations on this too. If you're single, you cannot contribute if you're earning more than $165,000 a year. If you're married, if you make more than $246,000 a year, so basically make $250,000 a year or more, you are not allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA. Once again, they made this for more the poor and to the lower end of the middle class, maybe almost to the middle class. But for those upper middle class or upper class, these things are not even an option. Isn't that interesting? Since most politicians make more than this. So it makes you wonder, where do they save their money? Well, here's another thing to think about too. If you are saving in IRAs or these kind of retirement plans, if you make less than basically 40,000 a year as a single person or less than 79,000 a year as a married person, they also do give you an additional $1,000 savers credit. So just saying, hey, thank you for contributing so that you don't become a burden on the Social Security system. We'll give you a little $1,000 tax credit on your taxes. So there is a little additional advantage if you do, or if you're making much less income. If you're making, like I said, below 39,500 as single, or 79,000 if you're married. But if you make over that, no tax credit, no real benefit there. Social Security. Speaking of Social Security, there's going to be a 2.5% increase in 2025 to keep up with inflation. Keep up, as they say, right? Whether you believe that or not, whether that's even enough, probably not. They even did things like raising deductibles on Medicare, and they even raised the insurance premium by about $10 a month on Medicare premiums too. So they're increasing all these things. As you can tell, they're kind of gearing up for it going bankrupt. So they're trying to slowly let you pay more while getting less benefit. Now, health savings accounts. This is something that if you haven't taken advantage of, you might seriously consider this. Health savings account is the real true triple benefit, right? It literally, because so many people say, oh, is there a way I can do the life insurance infinite banking where it's tax deductible going in, grows tax-free, comes out tax-free? And the answer is no, not really. Because even if you do it through your business, you get the tax deduction, you get taxed on the back end. But with health savings accounts, it is a triple tax benefit. You put it in, it's written off on your taxes, whatever you contribute into your health savings account. It does accumulate, if you put in a savings account or even into some kind of investments, sometimes you can self-direct into health savings account. You can invest with it, yes. And so it grows tax-free and it comes out tax-free, used specifically for medical expenses. The great thing is if you get to retirement age and you haven't used it for medical expenses, yes, you can access it later on and also take tax-free income from that too. But the nice thing is if you're already going to pay for medical expenses, we might as well get the tax deduction, the tax write-off for it, right? So that's one thing that is good about health savings account. I will warn you. I mean, sometimes I see people get a little bit overboard with it, where they start really saving into it, like a retirement plan. The problem is, again, this is something that is only used for medical expenses. If you're not going to be, because you have decent health coverage, if you're not going to be using it that much, I would hesitate to try to dump a ton of cash in there. Even if you just get a tax benefit, even if it's down the road, I just don't see a huge benefit in that. That's just my personal opinion. But someone might say, I want to keep 10, 20, maybe $30,000 in there. Could be a great option for you. If you've been following this podcast, you're probably looking for great ways to create passive income right now, right? Well, we got you covered here with Central Lending. Central Lending specializes in alternative investments that actually are designed to create steady returns and long-term financial security for you and your family. Now, they prioritize transparency. They love, building those strong relationships, giving you that confidence and peace of mind, knowing that you have your money working harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard for that money. You want to learn more how to do that? Go to centrallending.com and check out what they've got today to create your passive income and wealth creation right now. All right, now in other news, right? Here's something that's interesting. Remember that 401ks and IRAs are really determined by the IRS, and of course Congress does have some involvement here. This is all dealing with the Secure 2.0 that was put into place back in 2023. Now, other news too. This is something that will affect you potentially if you work for an employer or if you have a 401k plan or the option to be in a 401k. For example, any 401k or 403b plans that were set up after December 29th of 2022, these plans will automatically enroll you this year. They will automatically enroll you. Even if you don't say, yes, I want the 401k plan, they will automatically make you go into a 401k plan, contributing anywhere from 3% to 10% a year, whatever the company determines. That will start being deducted from your paycheck. If you're not careful and not watching this, you will realize that you were actually enrolled in your 401k plan. Here's the other kicker. Each year you're in it, the government also says you got to contribute 1% more each year. So if they started you off at say 5% a year, the next year they're going to put you at 6% contribution. Next year 7%, 8%, and then they're going to cap you out somewhere between 10 and 15. They have to be at least 10 before they stop raising you, but they can do it all the way up to 15%. So they're forcing you in a way to do that. Now, does that mean you have to do it? No, you can opt out of the plan, but you have to take the initiative to opt out. They are going to automatically enroll you into that plan, whether you like it or not. So remember, you might be watching for this. You might want to watch to make sure that this year they're not automatically enrolling you in a 401k when you don't want to be. So again, me personally, I'm not a big fan of those 401ks and IRAs because I don't want my money locked up in prison for potentially decades. And by the way, this is a guy right now, I'm actually exactly 12 years away from being able to access a 401k without the 10% early withdrawal penalty. And I still don't want to do it. And that's not even talking about the rule 55 where I could potentially get it sooner, depending on how situation goes. But for my situation, it would be 59 and a half. And so I've got 12 years. I still don't want to put money in these places because there's no real advantage. There's no tax advantage for doing this. And honestly, there's just no benefit for me, because I can make money now. That's my personal opinion. And I'll talk about that here at the end of the show. All right, now here's something that is kind of cool, especially if you are a fan of the 401k, is that if you work at least 500 hours a year, right? So you're a part-time employee. So 500 hours is not a ton, right? This is like 10 hours a week, basically. If you're at least a part-time employee and you work for an employer for at least 2 years, you are now eligible to contribute to a 401k. This wasn't always the case. It used to be you had to be at least 30, 40 hours a week, at least full-time employee. That's not the case anymore. They've changed the rules. If you're working at least 500 hours a year and you're in after the second year in your company that you've been working for, you can actually be enrolled in a 401k. Now, the last thing, and this was something that I had just learned myself really earlier this last year because this is a more updated rule in the last few years. So with some of these changes, the Secure 2.0, one of the changes also happened was with inherited IRAs, or they used to call them stretch IRAs. Now, back when I was a financial advisor, I used to teach about these stretch IRAs. I would tell them, hey, here's the benefit of getting an IRA because even if you don't use it all up when you die, you can then pass it on to your family and do a stretch IRA. So then they keep the IRA and then they don't get taxed for decades as well. It can keep going for generations, right? You can keep it going into that next generation. Well, as you know, Uncle Sam wants you, right? The government wants your tax money. They said no more. They said, now if money's passing between spouses, different story. That's not the case. But especially for someone who, passed on, especially when they're into their 70s, if they pass on and then they leave you the IRA, you must withdraw all of that IRA within 10 years from the death of that parent or whoever you inherit it from. And that starts from year one. So they're going to make you withdraw X percentage each and every year until you get to year 10, where it has to be all gone. If you do not pull out that specific percentage, there's a 25% penalty on the money you should have withdrawn. That's gone to the IRS. You'll never see it again. It's out of your money. So be aware. And this happens if you inherited anything after 2019. So if you inherited money that wasn't in IRAs or 401ks, well, 401k became rolled into an IRA or something like that. Yes, you do need to actually get that money out. Now, someone might ask, they'll say, well, where can I put it? Could I also contribute to an IRA? Yes, you could. You could definitely do that. You still have to pay taxes on it. So personally, would I do it? Probably not. Some people might do a Roth. That could be a potential option, of course. A lot of people, though, are looking at this saying this would be a perfect way to fund life insurance over the next 10 years. And the answer is, yeah, it would be. I mean, that's one place you can make sure you put into a tax-free place. And more importantly, the government cannot change the rules. That's the big thing. Remember, if you're in 401ks and IRA plans, they change the rules. You have to go along with it. That you are required to follow whatever they do. If they change the rules, that happens. You don't get a say in the matter. It's like having a business partner, but they make all the rules for you. They tell you when you can get money out of the company or when you can't. That's basically what's happening here. So just be aware, they've already changed rules. What's going to happen again? They could get better. It is possible that with the Trump administration, they could try to enact something, or Congress could try to enact something, but it could get worse, especially because at some point in the next 4 years, they must address how to deal with Social Security. Because right now, you're only paying 12.4%. Well, 6.2 if you're an employee, 12.4 if you're self-employed. So you're not paying as much as we were paying in the past. Back in the day when we were paying 15.3% into Social Security, now it's 12.4. I can assure you, probably in the next 4 years, we're going to see changes there. We might see some changes in 401k and IRA plans, or maybe even with Roth IRAs, which people get to keep tax-free benefits versus those that maybe make too much money because they're quote unquote rich. If they have too many assets, they might say, well, to screw you, we're going to tax you anyways, right? There's so many changes that can happen. This is why I trust life insurance instead, if I'm going to store money. Also, I like the ability to use that money short term. I can access it in case of emergencies. I can access it to help with college funding for my kids. I can access that money and use it to go and invest and do whatever I want with it. I can put it in my business. I can go do whatever. It can actually help me buy a house for my own use. I can use it for whatever I want. That's one of the huge benefits you have. I lock it up in IRAs. Yes, I can do self-directed IRAs. I can then invest in different things, but it's still locked up with those IRA rules that can change at any time. And that's ultimately what it comes down to is if you're trying to plan, it's really hard to plan when you know that those in charge can change the rules. This is why I personally don't trust the 401k plan. It's not that it's bad in every situation. I don't trust 401ks, IRAs, even Roths, even though I like Roths better. I even like Roth 401ks better than a 401k. But once again, the big issue is what if they decide to change the rules on me? What if they decide to change the rules on you? What does that do? If you're relying on just this one strategy to work for you, what happens if that strategy changes and it's thrown out the door? And then your whole plan is obsolete. If you want a good financial plan, it needs to be a plan that works in any situation. It can adjust and change based on how the world adjusts and change, which is changing faster and faster every day. This is why I use life insurance, infinite banking, because I know that those tax rules are locked in that contract at that time. Even if they change the rules later, I have a contract that whenever I got that life insurance policy, those are the rules and they stay that way. Now, on the other side too, I also like to invest in things that generate income now. I don't want to predict, try to forecast my future when I have no clue what the stock market is going to do in the future. especially when they're predicting maybe 3, 4, or 5% average over the next 10 years. Yeah, you can almost do a CD and get that and not have all the risk to go with it, right? So they're predicting a very low return in the stock market for the next decade because it's already had a huge run for the last 16 years. And so for me, I'd rather, again, put that in real assets like real estate that then it pays me income now. By the way, I don't even know if I'll be alive long enough to enjoy the benefits of a 401k or IRA. You don't know if you'll be alive long enough unless you're already there. But for those of us that are in our 30s and 40s or whatever it might be, we don't know if it's going to be there, even in our 50s. What can you do to change your life today? What can you do to create freedom right now? It's just like one of my clients, it's just a great guy. As I was talking to him at our event, man, he found out he had a medical condition that actually could kill him at any moment. Man, wouldn't that change your perspective if you knew that any moment, well, truthfully, all of us at any moment could pass away, but he knew genetically that could be the case. And so he started to change how he did his plan. He stopped trying to set it and forget it and put away for the future. He said, what can I do right now? And by the way, when I know the tax laws right now, it's easy to make decisions for my investments right now that then pay me income right now. Versus, boy, I hope for me, 12 years, nothing changes, which a lot can change in 12 years. For some of you, it's even longer. That's the risk. And so good to know these rules. It's good to know this. And I'm not saying it's bad in all situations. We do have some clients that we do have them keep money in IRAs. We might even do self-directed IRAs so they can invest in these same kind of investments, but not gamble in the stock market. However, if you had the choice with new money going in these plans, for the most part, just don't make sense. Unless, like I said earlier, you're in your early 60s or something like that, then yes, we might be able to put money in, pull it back out, and then use it. That's the key. How liquid can you get your money so then you can use it to generate income for you today, benefiting your life today, not waiting for tomorrow when it may or may not give you any benefit at all. So again, I don't want you guys to be slaves the rest of your lives, hoping and praying that something's going to be there when it's not. I want you guys to have that freedom right away. So again, if you guys ever have questions, you can always reach out to us, moneyripples.com, of course. But here's the thing I would just ask you is look at your strategy. Are you relying on the government to take care of you? And do you trust them? If not, we should be talking. Anyways, guys, make it a wonderful and prosperous week and into this new year of 2025. We'll see you later.